reflex action. Okay, so what is reflex action? As I have already told you in the previous lecture that nerves are the coordinating factors of our body. They coordinate the parts of our body with the brain or the spinal cord. Okay? They coordinate our body with the brain and the spinal cord. So today we have to study a similar kind of an action. It's called reflex action. So this section, what is in this section? Reflex actions are very fast, involuntary actions. It means they are not in our control. These actions are not in our control. Involuntary means they are not in our control. They are in the control of the spinal cord. They are controlled by the spinal. Such actions which are not in our control, they are controlled by the spinal cord. Means they are involuntary actions, they are controlled by the spinal cord. For example, so what are they saying? Though the brain is the control and coordinating center of all actions and reactions, some of the actions take place automatically without the अब वैसे भी हमने जो previous lecture पढ़ा है, so what we have studied that the brain is responsible for our actions. What we do, if we think, we understand, we learn, our memory, reasoning, everything is because of the brain. Brain is coordinating our body is the control center of the body. So, but although there are some actions which are not in control of the brain, they do not involve the brain. So, what is an example? For example, if we touch a hot utensil with our fingers, like I have told you that if we touch a hot utensil, we at once jerk our hand back. Okay, even before we feel the pain. For the reflex action means before feeling the pain, we just jerk our hand back. हमें पता लगता है that we have touched a hot object. So we immediately jerk our hand back. But even before feeling the pain, our hand pulls away automatically with a jerk. This is a reflex. What is it called? It's called a reflex action. So it doesn't involve the brain. Okay, it doesn't involve the brain. It is a reflex action. It is controlled by the spinal cord. So there are some actions which which are not in control, which are not in brain, which do not involve the brain, and these are very fast, involuntary actions, and these are controlled by the spinal cord. So if our fingers touch something hot object, so we immediately jerk our hand back, and this doesn't involve the brain. This is a very fast reflex action, and it is controlled by the spinal cord. So when our fingers touch a hot, it's okay. Like you can, as you can see in this picture, look over here. Like this is the spinal cord. Now the spinal cord is connected to the nerves. Which nerves? You can look over here. This one. These are connected to the, on one side these are connected to the sensory nerve, and on the other side these are connected to the motor nerves. Okay, so sensory nerves is going in our fingers. As you can see, the sensory nerves, black color. The sensory nerves are going in our fingers, and the motor nerves is going to our muscles. You can see the muscles. The muscles are present in our arms. Okay? In our arms, there are muscles present. So the motor nerves are extending to the muscles, and the sensory nerves are extending to the fingers. Now, as soon as you touch a hot object from here, okay, so the sensory nerves present there, they take the message to the spinal cord, and the spinal cord send the motor nerve so that her hand jerk back immediately. So this is called a reflex action. Okay? Her hand jerk back immediately. This one is an involuntary action, and this is controlled by the spinal cord as you can see. So when our fingers touch a hot object, the sensory nerves take the signal to the spinal cord. Okay, which Which nerve take the signals? Sensory nerves. Sensory nerves take the signals to the spinal cord, and then the spinal cord immediately sends a signal to the motor nerves. Now the spinal cord sends the signal to the motor nerves to the muscles of the hand, and we pull our hand with. Okay? Spinal cord, as soon as the spinal cord uh, gets the signal, it immediately sends a signal towards the muscles of our hand, and we pull our hand away. So these are reflex actions. Some actions are not controlled by the brain. These are called reflex actions. These are involuntary actions. These are controlled by the spinal cord. लाइक ब्लिंक एग्जांपल्स हैं देखिए आप पेज के बॉटम पे लिखिए ब्लिंकिंग ऑफ द आई puffing, yawning, sneezing, watering of mouth. These are all reflex actions. Like blinking. Blinking. These are all immediate actions. Na? These are not controlled by the brain. These are controlled by the spinal. Blinking, yawning, coughing, sneezing, watering of mouth. These are all reflex actions. Okay, do you know a person blinks about 15 times per minute? Okay, how many times a person blinks per minute? 15 times. Find out how many times a person blinks in a day. It means if it is per minute 15 times, then it in full day, how many times it will blink. So now you know. Okay, who will tell me? Sensory nerves send signals from the dash to the dash. Okay. Yes, who will tell me the answer? Yes, Marius. Unmute yourself. G. Marius. Yes, Manahit. G. Dua.
ये पेज नंबर क्या है?
You don't know the page number yet. I have told the whole paragraph and you are asking me now that what is the page number. It's page number 54. It is also showing on the screen. G. Anyone tell me the answer? Sensory nerves send signals from the dash to the dash. Ikra, you can tell. Okay, students, right. Sensory nerves send signals from the sense organs to the brain or spinal cord. It's written in the previous page definition of sensory nerves. 50 page number 53. It's written over here. Sensory nerves send signals from the sense organs to the brain or the spinal cord. So this is the answer to this definition to this blank. Motor nerves send signals from the dash to the dash. raise your hands. G, raise your hands. Next blank. Use fun. You can tell me. Students, answer the blank. Second blank. Motor nerves send signals from the dash to the dash. We have studied in the previous lecture that sensory nerves take signals from the like this. These are the sense organs, ना? कि जैसे ये hand है. अब ये sense organ है ना, skin है. Okay, if we touch a hot object or something, the sensory nerves take the signals towards the spinal cord, and then the spinal cord produces a response and sends through the motor nerves to the muscles. So the motor nerves, they are now asking where does motor nerve send signals? The motor nerve sends signals from the brain to the muscles and glands. Okay, when motor nerve sends signals from the brain or spinal cord to the muscles or glands. You can write in the next blank brain or spinal cord in the first line, brain or spinal cord in the first line, to the muscles or glands. It's also written on page number 53, motor nerves. Okay, reflex section is controlled by the dash. Brain or spinal cord, which controls the reflex section? Yes, who wants to tell me the answer? Reflex section is controlled by dash. G Marriage, you can unmute yourself. Yes, anyone else? Chitwa, you tell me. Reflex section is controlled by the dash. Yashad, do you want to tell? Okay, so right, reflex section is controlled by the spinal cord. Right in the third blank, reflex section is controlled by the spinal cord. So these are the blanks. I will repeat once again. First blank, sensory nerves send signals from the sense organs to the brain or spinal cord. Motor nerves send signals from the brain or spinal cord to the muscles and glands. Reflex section is controlled by the spinal cord. So now the next is your sense organs. G, what are sense organs? There are five sense organs: ears, eyes, nose, tongue, skin. So firstly, we have to study eyes, which is the first sense organ. Which is the first sense organ? Eyes. Which is a visionary sense organ. Visionary sense organ means which helps us to see. Without eyes, we are blind. We cannot see. We cannot see the world. Okay? So with the help of eyes, we are able to see. So these are visionary organs. What are they called? Visionary sense organs. Means they help in vision. So what are eyes? Eyes are set in bony sockets in the skull. Where are eyes present? Eyes are present in the skull. head region, and also eyes, face. They're further protected by eyelids and eyelashes, which keep the eyes clean and dust free. Okay, so eyelids and eyelashes, it protects our eyes from dust, and they keep our eyes clean. Every time we blink, our eyes get clean. Okay, so whenever you blink, every time we blink, our eyes get clean. The eyes and the brain together help us to see. The eyes only cannot see. Okay, eyes are visually sense organ, but only alone eyes cannot help us to see. Together with the brain, eyes help us to see. Okay, like whenever we are seeing something, like for example, you are standing in a park and you are seeing children are running around in the park. Okay, so how are you able to see that picture? मतलब आपको कैसे नजर आ रहा है कि पार्क में जो है वो बच्चे भाग रहे हैं, खेल रहे हैं, they are playing around. So light from an object, okay, you see images because light from an object, firstly light enters through the eye to a clear transparent area called the cornea. Firstly light enters to the cornea. Okay, that one layer, the outside layer is called cornea. The outer layer is called cornea. Firstly eyes enter through cornea. Behind the cornea is the iris. Cornea के पीछे क्या है? Iris. What does iris do? It is the colored part of the eye and determines eye color. जो हमारी eyes का colored part होता है ना, means someone has brown eyes, someone has black eyes, someone has blue eyes, someone has gray eyes, someone has green eyes. So the iris is the colored part of the eye and determines the eye color.
हाँ
Underline this line. Iris is the colored part of the eye.
क्लास लेनी
जो कलर पार्ट है आई का वो क्या कहलाता है? आइरिस. मीन्स लाइक there can be green eyes, blue eyes, brown eyes, black eyes. So the color of the eye is determined by which part of the eye? Iris. Okay, now in the center of the iris is the pupil. Okay, when you see your colored part of the eye, na, you see that there is a very small hole in the center of that color part. अगर आप अपने color part को देखते तो आपको ये भी नजर आता होगा कि उसके center में ही एक बहुत ही जो है वो स्मॉल जो है वो डॉट होता है और वो क्या वो what is it called? It is called the pupil. Okay, what is it called? It's called pupil. So we have now studied three layers: cornea, iris, and pupil. The cornea is the outermost layer of the eye. Behind cornea means the liquid part of the eye is the cornea. जो हमारे ये जो white color white part होता है ना eyes का, जो हमारी eyes में जो white part है, that is the cornea. The white part of the eyes is the cornea. The colored part is the iris, and in the center of the iris there is a dot which is called the pupil. तो अभी मैंने आपको थ्री लेयर्स बता दिए. द वाइट वन इज दी जो ट्रांसपेरेंट लेयर है वो क्या है? कॉर्निया. जो उसके सेंटर में मतलब मेरी जो जो कलर पार्ट है इसका, दैट इज कॉल्ड द आइरिस, एंड इन द सेंटर ऑफ द आइरिस इज द प्यूपिल. So the pupil is an opening of the eye. Now the pupil, which looks like a black spot, is actually an opening in the iris. यानी जिनकी आईज ब्लैक होती है उनका प्यूपिल इतना क्लियर नहीं होता होगा क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली वो वाइड हो जाता होगा, लेकिन फिर भी एक मतलब सर्कल सा नजर आ ही जाता है. लेकिन जिनकी आईज जो है वो कलर्ड होती है, यानी ब्लू कलर्ड है, ब्लैक ब्राउन कलर्ड है, या इस तरह से ग्रीन कलर है, वट एवर, तो देयर देयर प्यूपिल इज विजिबल. उनका प्यूपिल जो है वो काफी हद तक विजिबल होता है. और प्यूपिल बेसिकली इट्स नथिंग, इट इज एन ओपनिंग. ठीक है, उसका और कुछ नहीं, लेकिन वो एक ओपनिंग है आइरिस में. जो ओपनिंग है बेसिकली That is the pupil that lets light into the eye. With the help of the pupil, the light enters the eye. If we have no pupil, then light cannot enter. Light enter किससे कर रही है? Pupils. It means it is a very major part of our eyes. So the pupil, which is a black spot, is an opening in the iris that let light into the eye. And with the help of this pupil, the light can enter the eyes. Okay, muscles in the iris make the pupil bigger or smaller to let in light, depending on the brightness outside. So the iris is controlled by muscles. There are muscles present around the iris on both sides of the iris. There are muscles present which help in the opening and closing of the pupil. Means they sometimes these muscles make the pupil bigger and sometimes they make it smaller so that light can enter. If we want more light to enter our eyes, means if for example if we enter in a dark room, so our pupil gets bigger. But if we enter in a already bright room, then our pupil gets smaller, and this contraction and relaxation is controlled by the muscles which are present in our eyes. So these muscles, they make the pupil bigger or smaller to let in light depending on the brightness outside. When it is dark outside, the pupils become larger to let in more light. When there is bright sunlight, the pupils become smaller to let in less light. So when there is a bright light, so for example, if you enter in a bright sunlight from a dark room, so what happens that at once the muscles of the iris cause the pupil to become smaller so that less light can enter. And it takes a second or two to adjust to the bright sunlight. Okay, but if we enter a dark room, sorry, a dark room, then and we are not seeing anything, हमें कुछ भी नजर नहीं आ रहा, हम एक dark room में आ गए, like अक्सर जो है वो light चली जाए, तो what happens like we can't see, हमें नजर ही नहीं आ रहा होता. So at that in that case, the iris cause the muscles of the iris cause the pupil to get bigger, so that more light can enter into the eyes. So now I have told you these three parts. Number one, which we have studied, was the cornea. Number two, iris, and number three is pupil. So what is pupil? Pupil is basic. So what is cornea? The white liquid portion of the eyes is called the cornea. What is iris? Behind the cornea is the iris, the colored part of your eyes. See, now all of you have different eyes colors. So that is the iris, the colored part. And in the center of the iris, there is a pupil. And the pupil is a spot which is basically an opening. It is controlled by the muscles. The muscles of the iris control the opening of the pupil. It makes the pupil bigger or smaller as required. Means if as we want to enter in a dark room or a bright room, so it depends upon the muscles of the iris to make the pupil bigger or smaller. So behind the pupil is a lens. Now at the back of the pupil there is a lens. What is a lens? Like lens is basically for eyesight. The lens focuses the picture on the retina. Okay. So whenever you see an object, the light enters through the pupil and it is focused by the lens on the retina. The The object is focused by the lens on the retina. What is retina? Retina is the last layer, as you can see over here. This is the main layer. It is important for image formation. Okay, it is important for image formation. These images are being made on the retina. There are tiny optic nerves present on the retina. These nerves send messages to a big nerve called the optic nerve. As you can see, the retina is connected with nerves, optic nerves. So these nerves, they send the messages to the brain, and then the brain tells us what we are seeing. So if you see a tree, if you see children playing in the park, what helps you in seeing? Your eyes. And which helps in your image formation? Retina. The retina together with the brain helps in image formation. The signals from the retina are carried by the optic nerves towards the brain, and then the brain tells us what we are seeing. Okay, so there is care of eyes given, that what you can do to take care of your eyes, like we can wash your eyes with water and then wipe them with a clean cloth. Do not read while lying down. Okay, जब आप लेट के पढ़ेंगे तो it will affect your eyesight. Ensure proper lighting while reading. Keep the book about 1 foot away from the eyes while reading. Okay, do not watch TV for a long time. Also, do not work on the computer for a long time. Blink, look away, or shut your eyes at regular intervals. Keep enough distance from the TV. मुसलसल टीवी पे या कंप्यूटर पे नहीं बैठना. It will affect your eyesight. Okay. Get your eyes checked if you are unable to read what is written on the blackboard. So you need to get your eyes checked if you are unable to read what is written on the blackboard. So now, um, 2 pages are left of this chapter. Okay, and after that I will give you chapter number 6 question answers for homework. So have you complete your previous work? Ji Yashad, tell me one by one. Have you completed the first 5 chapters? Yes, Yashad, have you completed?
Yes, teacher.
Spark?
Yes, teacher.
All the 5 chapters.
देखो मैं क्लास ले रहा हूँ कर मैसेज
Wow.
टीचर 5 चैप्टर सारे हो गए हैं.
सारे हो गए हैं. New words plus question answers. All work is done. Okay, Ibra, have you done all the 5 chapters?
Yes, teacher, all of them. No, 5. Oh.
Nahid,
Yes, teacher. सारे हो गए.
Nahid, you also have done. Okay. So
Yes.
now, in the next
उस्मान
lecture,
नाजरी क्लास में.
I will give in you. Now, in the next lecture, I will give you class 6 question answers. Okay. So now, students,
क्लास में आऊंगा.
ask questions from you. Tell me one by one. What is a reflex action? G. Raise your hands who want to tell me the answer. Yes, Marich. G. Students. Yes, Marich, tell me what is a reflex action? Okay, Bra, you can tell me. Unmute yourself, Ibra.
हाँ भी उस्मान।
जी मैं Manahij. You tell me.